In this video, I will be reviewing the 2025 Godzilla vs. Thor comic, approved by the Godzilla Thor team. The last of the 2025 Godzilla vs. Marvel one-off comics. We start off in Japan with a cult known as The Hand, which seems to worship murder. We get a callback to the Punisher King of Killers comic series, which came out in 2022, I think, at least according to this volume available on Amazon, which essentially tells us that this comic takes place somewhat relative to modern-day Marvel. The Marvel Comics timeline is a little janky to explain. After gathering up the best mass murderers and killers in the world, they sacrifice them, specifically the still beating heart of the giant monsters all-out attack version of Godzilla. Yes, you heard me correct, folks. This comic serves as a sequel to the G.M.K. movie, as they reference the events of said movie several times throughout the issue, which just draws the question, where the heck was Thor during the events of said movie? Apparently this all happened 20 years prior to the events of modern day in the comic, which I guess means that the year this story takes place in is either 2021 or maybe about 2022. A lot of the Godzilla movies like to take place a year after the year they're released in real life, so it could either be 2021 or 2022 to be honest. It's close enough to modern day Marvel either way, and for all we know, they could just be leaving out a few years or rounding down. We get a good look at this Godzilla right before he faces off against Thor, and he is able to endure his electric blast and is even able to headbutt him away. This is kind of a big deal because, as stated in the comic itself, this is Thor after receiving the Odin Force power-up, which was basically all the power his father Odin had, and Odin was on a completely different level than Thor. But we'll get into Odin Force Thor or All-Father Thor another time. What's interesting about G.M.K. Godzilla is that he now sports a yellow atomic breath. At first I thought this had something to do with him absorbing the energy of King Ghidorah back in the movie, but then I remembered he still went back to a regular blue atomic breath afterwards, right before he blew himself up. I mean, you won't hear me complain about having more color variety for Godzilla's atomic breath. Thor sends Godzilla up into his sky with a massive tornado, but Godzilla is not backing down. What's interesting is that Thor throws his hammer, piercing through Godzilla's body multiple times according to Thor himself, yet Godzilla shows no signs of slowing down. The fact that he can still use his atomic breath despite having multiple holes in his body, whereas in the movie originally just having one hole caused him to blow himself up. Glad to see he fixed that weak somehow. I should also note that according to the cultist, Godzilla is apparently stronger than he was before, and I guess the yellow atomic breath, as well as being able to take on Thor of all people, is a testament to that. Thor then decides to open a portal to, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, Jotunheim, which is basically the realm of the Frost Giants, and basically freezes Godzilla solid. And it definitely did the trick because Godzilla is still frozen weeks later. But the Hand isn't through with Godzilla yet. After somehow obtaining the Necro Sword belonging to Gore the God Butcher, yeah, that Gore from Thor Love and Thunder. Okay, not exactly, but the same character, different universe. After being away for several battles, Thor returns to find that Asgard, the realm of the gods, is completely destroyed, reduced to nothing but an inferno, as he faces off against Godzilla, the God Butcher. Oh boy, so Godzilla having the Necro Sword and the powers of Gore? My goodness, I'm gonna have a lot of fun power scaling this in the future. The fight is literally described as tearing through realms, different universes, different planes of existence. Godzilla sporting a dark purple Necro breath, with neither he nor Thor backing down in the fight. Thor then decides to use all the power he can muster, summoning every storm in existence to create a galaxy-sized hurricane, and dives towards Godzilla. But Godzilla just swallows him up before Thor bursts out, with Thor putting all that he has left into one final attack. The two attack each other in an epic clash. I guess in this clash both Godzilla and Thor die, since apparently people can't sense Godzilla anymore. But I guess when Thor said he'd be seeing Godzilla in hell, he meant it literally, and I'm specifically referring to the Norse version of hell, which is spelled only with one L, as we now see an older bearded Thor fighting Godzilla for what possibly might just simply be eternity, as the comic literally ends with their fight saying that it would rage across till the end of time, with the last page showing Thor's broken hammer Mjolnir drifting through space with a massive explosion in the background. So either the two died and ended up fighting each other for eternity in the afterlife, or their clash somehow sent them to the afterlife without either one actually dying. It's kind of hard to say. One thing I want to note about Godzilla's design in this comic is, of course he starts off resembling his movie counterpart, but then when he gets the God Butcher power power-up, he's got like all these black spikes around his body, including around his head. However, in the second to last page, when they're both in the afterlife, it looks like Godzilla sort of reverted back to his original appearance. Though I guess this is just a visual change, as he's clearly still as strong as Thor, as neither one's able to stop the other. Overall, this is a pretty satisfying comic, as we get to see Godzilla and Thor have their rematch, and that the two are still equally matched, even if this is technically a different incarnation of Godzilla, since Thor does not mention his previous fight against Godzilla in the official 616 comic continuity. As mentioned before, these comics are sort of canon divergent. They follow the original 616 Marvel continuity up to a certain point, though again, I must question how the events of the G.M.K. movie happened in this timeline in the events around 2001, and where the heck was Thor or literally any other hero in the world. I get that most of them operate around New York, but still. Well, I guess to be fair, Godzilla will probably be getting a third crack against Thor in the upcoming Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe story, and I will be power scaling this version of Godzilla along with all the other Godzillas to appear in the Godzilla vs. Marvel stories in a future power scaling video. But I hope you all enjoyed this short little comic review. Look forward to more in the future. Take care, folks.